Welcome to Abundance. You guessed it, a podcast dedicated to all things surrounding dance. I am Kristin.
And I am Hannah, and we are two best friends who are brought together by this art form.
Please join us in 5, 6, 7, 8. Hi everyone, we are here today with yet another wonderful duo. We have with us Kristin Deiss and Michelle Loucadoux, co-founders of Dance End. I actually had not heard of this company before until Hannah brought it to my attention, but I'm really glad that I've discovered it, as well as just looking a little bit further into your organization. I really love what the mission is and just am excited and curious to learn more about your offerings today. So welcome to you both.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So to begin this episode off, can you please share with our audience the mission and focus of Dance End and what type of courses you offer? Because we saw a couple on your website and we would love for you to just explain them a little bit further to us.
Totally. So Dance End is a company that is solely dedicated to providing mental health and wellness services for dancers and dance educators. So we help dancers and dance educators deal with things like body image issues, self-talk issues, perfectionism issues, coping with stress, dealing with all of the things that the dance world brings to us in a healthy and sustainable way. So we have a number of courses for dancers. We have a 3-month and kind of ongoing course called Nourishing the Whole Dancer for dancers who are studying in high school and or professional dancers, and it's ongoing. And we have a free course called Inspiring the Whole Dancer for dancers to just take a 5-day foray into like, hey guys, what's going on with my mental wellness? But we also focus on helping dance educators create a safe space in the dance studio. So we train dance educators and certify them in mental wellness. And we also have an ongoing program that we just started called Counsel, where dance teachers can join us once a week and we talk about issues and we talk about basically everything. And then we give out PDF printable worksheets for dance teachers to use with their students every week, and then educational videos every month.
We also add to this. Yeah, we also provide wellness workshops for studios or schools if they want to bring us in for a few hours to talk about any topics. Really, it's their choice. And we have one more training for dance competition judges in particular about how to be more aware of the setting, the dynamics, the words that you use, so that you can help to support these dancers that you might not know a lot about, right? But they think the world of you. So that rounds out the offerings that we have, and we're on Instagram at Dance End Official, where there's a lot of free resources that you can find. We have 2 ebooks for dance educators that are completely free. So if you head to the link in our Instagram profile, you will see them and you can sign up for them there.
Awesome. I really love how you guys offer these things to not only dancers, people who are students, but also the teachers. And that's so cool about the judges. That is not something I, from initially looking at your website, had picked up on. I may have missed that, but that is really, really remarkable. And I think that doesn't really exist anywhere else. So that's really awesome to learn about. Now, I'm a little curious about this 5-day challenge, the Inspiring the Whole Dancer. Is this something that you guys always offer? Is there a deadline for people to sign up, or is it kind of just an ongoing, just whenever you stumble upon it and decide to kind of take it on?
Yeah, it's whenever works for you. Sign up and complete it whenever. It's always available. And it's 5 days in total. That means 5 consecutive days. That could mean a Monday. And then, oh God, now it's 3 weeks from now and I forgot. Let me go back. It basically is designed just 5 sort of little tiny units for dancers to, as Michelle said, as like an introduction into mental wellness. As much as we can, it's a business. So there is part of a business that requires some transaction in terms of payment, but as much as we can, we try to make things available and tips and resources free for those who need it. So we do have a lot of those things, and we encourage to start there, right? Because that would be the best place to start, to get a little taste of what we offer, and then go from there.
Yeah, and I also think like that's nice that you're offering it kind of whenever you feel up to doing it, because I know like so many people have busy lives. And so when something's time sensitive, sometimes it's like, oh, I have to get this done. But now, like, if you had the leisure of doing it, you can kind of do it whenever makes the most sense for you, and during whatever time also makes the most sense. Like maybe one day you're super busy and you can't do it that day, but then the next week you can, as you were saying. And I don't know, I just think that's really awesome. And as Kristin said too, I really appreciate your mission and everything you guys are doing and standing for. So yeah, it's just a pleasure to hear more about it. And can you talk a little bit about how you two met? You both are teaching at Hushin, that's how you pronounce it, Hushin College in California. Yeah, so can you both give us a little bit of background with that?
Yeah, so Kristin and I have been teaching together and working together at Hushin College, which used to be called Studio School in Los Angeles, for about 7 years now, I think. And we met literally when the school first started. We started teaching the very first inaugural class that came in, and we've been together ever since. And I actually left. I was the Associate Dean of Undergraduate Studies and left about last year to pursue a bunch of different things, inclusive of starting Dance Hand. And Kristin is still there. She is the chair of the dance department and slaying it. But yeah, we met there, and we worked together, and we found that we really kind of click as far as how we approach our classes and how we approach our dancers and how we approach learning. We want to create a safe, encouraging space in the dance studio, and we want dancers to feel comfortable in failing and being goofy and being completely brave and completely themselves, 100% themselves. And so about a year and a half ago, we both have toddlers. Well, I guess mine's a preschooler now. I don't know. My kid's 3. Her kid is 2.
Mine.
Oh,
he
yours
just
is 3
turned
now.
3, and we Googled it. This is so, you can edit this out if you want. We Googled it. 1 to 3 is toddler. 3 to 5 is preschooler.
So we have preschoolers.
We're old. Okay, I'm just gonna go on.
Okay, well, the audience can't see you, but we can, and you guys look wonderful for your age.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank
kudos to that.
But we were actually at a play date one day a while ago, and our kids were playing together, and we were talking about how can we support our students in becoming in coping with all of the things that the dance industry brings to them, and coping with, we had so many dancers dealing with self-confidence issues and like negative self-talk issues and body image issues. And we were like, how can we take care of our dancers? How can we support them? And we started looking for resources, and there really weren't a lot of resources out there. So we, at the playground with our kids climbing up the, fire engine playground slide, we're like, let's just do it ourselves. Let's start this business. So we started Dance End, and then we got super nerdy for a super long time. So we started delving really deep into research. So here's one thing that we are very passionate about as far as Dance End is concerned is that all of our information is based in peer-reviewed scientific research. We believe that there are tons of resources out there, but we want to make sure that we are providing the most up-to-date information to our folks that we can. So we started researching and started creating our resources, and so we're here now. That's how we met when we met back in 2014.
I know. And I 2 things to add to that. One, a little bit brainy and one a little bit gushy, a little emotional. So the first thing I would say is, Michelle and I are not mental health professionals, nor do we claim to be, right? That is not our forte. That is not our strength. That is not our training. That is not our background. However, we are academics. We are educators. So our strength really is in the research and translating it into lessons, right? Into activities, into teaching both educators and dancers how to put this into practice, right, in their lives, and making the information useful. That's really like the biggest thing that we hope to do. Information is information, and a lot of times it can live in this world where everything is great and theoretical and it sounds wonderful and all of this, but if we don't understand how to use it, it's not actually helpful, right? So our mission is to really make it useful for both educators and dancers. The other thing I would add is, and I've said this about you, Michelle, and to you, Michelle, for a very long time, but it kind of goes with, the power of having somebody empower you, or the power of having somebody make you feel like you are capable. In my dance training, I had a lot of teachers that didn't do that. I don't think that it was a conscious choice for them. I think that they were just teaching the way they were taught. And a lot of teachers, their instinct is to point out what's wrong, right? Because you're trying to make somebody better. So the first thing you do is just look for the weakness, look for what's wrong, diagnose the problem so that your student can get better. I knew very quickly that the relationship that I was developing with Michelle was very different. And this was somebody who was seeing the best in me. And I think that when you go into partnership with anyone, friendship, business, relationship, like whatever it is, that's really important to have that. There comes the heart emoji. That's really important to have that in the people that you're surrounding yourselves with, period, right? And so I know you two are working together here, Kristin and Hannah, and it seems like you have that as well. But that how powerful that is, right? To have somebody that you trust, that you admire, really believe in you and tell you that you can do it, not just through their words, but through their actions. And that is what we're trying to create. That environment is what we want to create in the dance studio, because these dancers can be phenomenal if they really, truly believe in their own ability. And educators are so important in making sure that happens. And they have a huge responsibility. And many times those educators weren't trained about how to do that, or the best words to use, or how to set up a warm, inviting, safe environment, right? So that's part of what we're doing too, is trying to get people to be the best dancers they can be by understanding what's going on with their mind, and then getting educators to be the best educators they can be by understanding, the relationship between educator and dancer, and how to bring mental wellness into that.
Thank you for that. Yes, much love. I know I'm seeing all the hearts. That is so very important. And I think we're getting closer and closer in the dance field to implementing some of these things, but the work needs to be done, and there needs to be people out there like you guys doing the work and making, like, having resources available and helping people along to make this actually happen, and hopefully reshape over time the dance world, and leave less students with traumatic experiences or quitting dance because of the negativity that sometimes it can bring into their lives. And yeah, I can't emphasize enough how important that really is, what you guys are doing. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And oh, sorry. Yeah. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and adding on to that, and I've mentioned this before in some of our other interviews that we've done too, but it just keeps coming up. Like, you wonder how many dancers might still be dancing, or how many gifted people could be doing this art form, but yet they quit, or they just stopped loving it, or they had that traumatic experience. And it's just sad, because dance can give so much. And I think if we are changing the way teachers, educators are bringing mental health, like what am I trying to say? Mental health is just so important. And I think if we change the way that we're teaching, then kids and, people in general will stay in the art form. So having these resources, as Kristin just mentioned, is like, it's just super powerful and important, and it has to be done. So.
And it's super, it is not difficult. I think that a lot of dance teachers are trained in how to teach a frappe, but they really don't know how to identify, warning signs when a dancer is struggling with a mental health issue. They don't know how to speak to someone who is maybe struggling with, dealing with self-harm issues, or, like contemplating some other, very serious things. So, so there is a very short ramp into helping dance educators know how to deal with their dancers, even in a trauma situation, or even how to, learn how to create a more inclusive and open environment where dancers feel like they can have feelings and say, hey, dance teacher, I feel sad today. And dance teacher doesn't need to be like a PhD, and like they just need to say, hey, I hear you, and that's okay for you to have a tough day, and let's just go as we go. It's completely okay for dance teachers, and it's a very short amount of time that they can spend to make a huge difference in the dance studio.
And I think too with that, sorry, Kristin, but I think we sometimes as dance teachers perhaps view when a child might be struggling with a mental health issue as them being kind of maybe disruptive in the classroom, depending on how that presents itself, or just kind of viewing them as not as good of a student because certain behaviors might be, or their mental illness may be coming off in a certain way. And so I think educating more teachers to see these warning signs, like you were saying, and to maybe approach their work differently, or how they deal with behavioral things in the classroom, is also very important. And not just dismissing something as just like, oh, they're just trouble, or, something along those lines.
Yeah, 1 in 5 young people right now, that the current research says that 1 in 5 young people will have a mental health challenge in their lifetime. That is 20% of the population. And there was a recent study that came out from the Norwegian School of Sports Sciences on specifically dancers, which says that the dance population is significantly higher. So we're not dealing with 20%, we're dealing with a significantly larger number. So this isn't abnormal. This is something that, teachers are going to deal with and should learn to deal with.
Yeah. So this work you do with DanceSend, is this something, the type of offerings that you have, are these things that you were kind of doing together at Hushin College? Was, because I know you said you both found that you taught similarly and approached your classes in a similar manner. Did you kind of take what you were doing there and form it into DanceSend, or was it more of the opposite of, okay, we see these overlap and these there's a relationship between what we're doing now, and then DanceSend was born as its own thing off of that, if that makes sense?
Yeah, kind of. I think, and maybe hopefully this answers your question. I think Michelle and I, kind of a mixture of the two things. I think our impulse was to teach in a way that supported mental wellness, but we didn't really know for sure, right? Like we certainly didn't know statistics. We didn't know the research behind how many dancers are struggling, why they're struggling, what the warning signs are. I mean, I think Michelle and I just have the same skill in sort of seeing people, interested in people, making sure that students are learning, right? So we would respond in a way that all of our research has found to be quite supportive of mental wellness, but we didn't really have the words and a huge toolkit from which to pull, right? So many educators are so burnt out because they are overworked, and the emotional toll of having all of these students in your room day in and day out that are struggling is a lot. It's huge. So many educators don't have the bandwidth and or the time to go down this path of, okay, I need to like do my research and create these tools for myself, right? So I think this is where Michelle and I were similarly seeing the way that we were responding to problems that we were seeing, or issues that needed addressing. And we were like, we really need some tools, right? So in searching for some tools, we saw the opportunity to create more. Like more needs to be out there for people. So that's sort of where we started it and how we started it. And hopefully that answers what you were asking.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, sometimes it's just one small change, right? That can make a huge difference in the way that your class goes, in the way that a student feels, in a way that you interact with them. Sometimes it's a question, sometimes it's a little mini exercise, sometimes it's just knowing that what you're already doing is actually making a difference, and it gives you that extra, push to keep going, that you do matter, and that these students really do look up to you, and you're making a big difference in their lives. I mean, also many times it's a reminder for educators to care for themselves, because they're modeling behavior for their students. So how many times, and I know, Michelle, you've brought this up before, and I do it. Oh my God, I used to do it so much before I really watched myself. How many dancer teachers do you know were like self-deprecating of themselves in front of students, right? Oh, I used to be so much better at this. Oh gosh, I'm old. I mean, I said it today, right? Just today when we're talking. And it was like it wasn't a conscious choice I was making, but what message does that send to the dancers in the room, right? So it's just little tiny things like that. Like the more you care for yourself, the better example you set for your students in the room. And that is hard too. And so our hope is to create some tools for educators, right? To also fill their own cup, because they're constantly pouring for other people.
Yeah. And it sounds like, as educators and teachers, you become the role models, right? So it is important that, you are feeling good yourself before you can pour into other people's cups as well. Yeah,
yep.
Very good point.
And there are a lot of studies that actually show that what students are learning the most from their educators isn't actually the subject being taught. It's the other soft skills that they see the teacher demonstrating. So communication, collaboration, confidence or lack thereof, right? So like all of these other things that you might think have nothing to do with math, for instance, but they come out, right? You spend time with these people, with your teachers, regardless of what you're teaching, of what they're teaching, and you're learning these other things through examples. So it's really important to be aware of that. And then it gives you also that added push to care for yourself, because so many people are like, yeah, they put themselves last, and we really need to be putting ourselves first.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many studies that say, math teachers are not teaching math. Yes, they're teaching math like maybe 20% of the time, but the other 80% is teaching life skills. Like we are, and especially as dance educators, because dancers are so passionate about dance, they are generally more passionate about their dance educators. So they are so much more a role model in a world where it's really difficult right now. Like this whole pandemic situation and dancing in our living rooms for like a year. And like there are so many things that we are dealing with right now that dance educators are having to deal with in themselves, and then dancers are having to deal with it. And we are completely reshuffling how we understand the industry and ourselves as a whole. It's really difficult. And so if we can model as dancers or as dance educators, if we can model good boundaries, good self-care. Like, I'm going to step away right now because I need to go for a walk. It's completely okay. It's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more with what you both are saying. I think right now is probably a great time for a break, and then we will pick right up with our conversation. So thank you. Here's a word from our sponsor.
So we're back, and I was just wondering if you could both share with us a little bit about the logistics involved in starting up this business. So as dancers, I think we are very multi-talented individuals, but I don't know if either of you have any business related background or what kind of went into this all and kind of helped it unfold the way it has.
I'm going to let Michelle take this one because she's the business lady. You'll see why.
I'm the business lady. So I have my master's degree in business, my MBA, master's of business administration, because I am so obsessed with the fact that so many of the principles of business apply to the dance world. It is crazy if dancers like really looked at, marketing and finances and like all of the things that people look at as far as a business is concerned, and they applied it to their dance career, it would make a huge difference. So I actually got my master's in business to help dancers understand the business side of dancing. But in the meanwhile, it helped us create Dance End. So what's interesting about starting a business and the whole conceptual thing, I wrote in college, I wrote many different, papers on, global marketing. And, I took a lot of tests on, finance and things like that and funding. And, but really the basis of starting a business is you have to try things, and you try things, and then you get data, and then you look at that data and you see what works, and then you try something else. And I think that applies to the dance world too. I tried really hard to be a professional ballet dancer, and I got to the core of a middle lane company. And then I was like, that's as far as I'm going. And then I got into musical theater and it went better. So I think in the world, if you start something and you get some data, you can use that data to move to a different space. So even in starting Dance End, we were like, let's help dancers. So we created this course for dancers called Nourishing the Whole Dancer. We spent months researching and creating and writing and making exercises and all of these things. And then we put it out there, and nobody really was quite as interested as we had hoped. And then we realized the people that were interested were dance teachers. So we took that information and that resource and we pivoted into creating resources for dance teachers. And now those dance teachers are using that dancer course, but we have to talk to the dance teachers first. So I say all that to say, business in general, I feel like it's so trial and error. People think you just go into business and you create a company and it goes to IPO in 4 years and you cash out for $1 billion and you're Jamie Kern Lima and you're going to live your life fantastically on a yacht in the Greek islands, right? Not so much. It's all trial and error. It's all, life is all trial and error. I think the key point is paying attention to what happens when you fail, and then using that information to create a better track moving forward.
Absolutely. So as you can see, half of us are very business oriented. I, on the other hand, had a little bit of a crisis when we first started this thing. I was like, I don't know anything about business. I'm not a mental health professional. I shouldn't be touching this with a 10-foot pole. Are you nuts? I can't do this. So cue Michelle, who's like, yes, you can. The cheerleader comes out and she sees the best in me and makes me believe in myself. But the one thing that I think, from the dance training, right, that all dancers share is persistence, and dedication and discipline, right? And all of those things become super important when a business, like most businesses, don't reach $1 million in profit overnight. So that's part of like the logistical part of it as well, is knowing, okay, what is our next step for our business, making short-term goals, understanding and keeping the long-term goals in mind, but how do we get there? Little steps every day, right? And making sure that you are on the same page. If it's you, then you're on your own page. If you're with other people, and just knowing what your tasks are and getting them done. And it's the same as, looking at like a dance career or even looking at a dance class. Everything is sequential. Everything moves at a certain pace, and being patient and trusting the process and knowing that, you're putting in the work and the work will come to fruition at some point in time. If you continue, as Michelle pointed out, to be observant and reflective and look at what's working and what isn't, and being willing to pivot and find a better way. I will also say that time management is so important when you have a million things going on, right? And for most business owners, when they first start, they've got a lot of stuff going on. You're like figuring out how to start your business while also figuring out what your business is and who your client is, like all of these things. So not being overwhelmed by the immense mountain that you have to climb can be super helpful too. Just one step at a time, one tendu at a time, right? Tendu grows into a grand jeté. It's like that.
And if you don't try it, you don't know. I mean, with anything, like, if you're going to go skiing, like, you don't know how you're going to ski until you like put the skis on and get on the snow. It's all about really understanding the world doesn't stop changing. So we all search for perfect, right? In the world of dance specifically, we all want that perfect quadruple pirouette, that perfect développé, that perfect everything. But perfect is a moving bar, always. McDonald's at some point had the perfect hamburger and French fries, and then we were all like, dag, that's terrible for us. And then McDonald's created a salad. Like, what world was McDonald's not like, they have a salad. Like,
do you remember those shakeable salads?
Dude, yes.
Every single time those lids would pop off and I'd be so mad. Like, well, there's my shakeable salad all over the floor.
But like huge companies pivot, huge companies. Every company changes and pivots because the world changes on the daily. And if you feel like you changing yourself or changing your approach or changing what you're doing is failing, it's not. You changing is you growing and you stepping into the more applicable you for the present time.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree with any of, what you're saying more, both of you. Because I think it's true. And even the pandemic made us all shift. Like, we didn't think that we had this going on, right? And you're forced to make these changes and you have to kind of roll with the punches. And I think especially us dancers and performers, but also anyone going through life, you might think that you have this end goal or this is how my life is going to be. And it's very much not a lot of the time, but that's where the most growth happens, during that time of uncertainty and trying to just kind of find your way. And even if you do get off course for a second, it's about getting back on and seeing and growing and figuring it all out. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it. And just kind of going back to just like everything happens the way it's supposed to. And that's a wonderful thing, So yeah, I could not agree more. My next question, and you might have kind of touched upon this, but I'm curious how the name Dancend came to be.
Well, let me paint a picture for you. Michelle and I are sitting at a cafe. Do you remember the name of it? I don't even know.
Romancing the Bean.
There we go. Romancing the Bean. Shout out to Romancing the Bean. During the pandemic, sitting in Burbank with the mountains, and we were outside on the sidewalk. And literally we were going, mental health, dancers, point, feet, jumps. Okay, like just for like 2 hours straight, we were just saying anything that came to mind, looking at a thesaurus, being like, okay, transcend is really cool. Oh, that's the name of a dance competition. Well, is that right? And we just kept going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And eventually we were getting to the point where we were talking about like raising the level of who you are, right? Becoming your best self mentally, so you can become your best self physically, and ascension, like all of these things, even transcend, right? That word kept popping up. And then I don't even remember how it happened, but we just danced, and we were like, yes. And then the first thing we did was make sure that nobody else had that name, that it was available on Twitter, on Instagram. Yeah, right. Like the dancen.com was available, because we're not putting that on anything unless we own these domains. But yeah, so that's how.
And then we were like, how do we spell it? DANSEND, SCEND, DA, I don't know.
I mean, that day, here's what's really fun, I think, about like when we first started it. It was so fun because Michelle and I, as you know, we met each other teaching at this college that had just started. So both of us were very used to being in a new environment where our ideas were heard and people asked us questions like how do we grow this school? What does a dream school look like? What did you wish you had learned in school that you didn't? What should we be teaching our students? So we were both already had worked together in an environment where we were consistently coming up with new ideas. Like, okay, and no idea is a bad idea, right? And both of us kind of provide that space for each other. No idea is a bad idea. No question is a bad question. Let's just throw it all out there and we'll see what happens. And I think that when you're in business, especially with somebody else, but also if it's just you have to feel so safe to share your ideas and opinions, because that's how you get the best ones. You just keep going, you keep snowballing, and you don't stop yourself in the middle of it. I mean, I can tell you right now, I'm sure I said a million things that
There's
day.
So many bad things.
So many bad ideas, right? Like, I shouldn't say bad, but so many ideas that weren't the one, that were very obviously not the one. But that's kind of like, you have to get to that place. You got to dig, you got to get through all the gunk of like what you think your creativity is to get to the gold. And if you don't let that gunk come out, you'll never find the gold that's underneath.
And I think that's an important thing, because especially in the dance world, in the dance studio, in the rehearsal room, the safer dancers feel, the safer choreographers feel, the safer educators feel, the more open they are going to be to being collaborative and creative. Like if you're scared of who's choreographing your next piece, and then they ask you to come up with 8 counts, you're like, oh, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to impress them? As opposed to someone that you feel like you can work with, that you can be yourself with, you're going to be significantly more creative. So I encourage anyone to, no matter who you're working with, like, even if you're, finding the right class to take on a Wednesday afternoon and you're looking for a contemporary teacher, find someone who makes you feel safe, because the safer you feel, the more likely you're going to feel to take risks, the more likely you are going to be creative. And that is what it's all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Your process of how you came up with your name kind of reminds me of our process when we were trying to figure out our name for a podcast. And it's, very, very similar journey, right, Kristin? It was great. Yeah.
And I love what you guys came up with. I think that's such a creative and powerful name. And it's not easy to come up with something, especially something that doesn't already exist. And there's so many different dance related organizations out there that it feels like everything is taken sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, really.
But like we love abundance. Like it's what a great name. And you can tell that you spend some quality time thinking about it. And it says everything about what you're doing and your vision.
Thanks.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we were trying to toy with the parentheses thing, like have dance in the word, you know, and how are we gonna make that all work? But thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
I was kind of wondering one last thing for today. So for our audience who may, well, we hope will check you guys out after this. Do you guys offer any in-person services ever, or will they always find what you offer online?
Good question. Most of what we're offering currently is online. Depending on where they're located, we can do our workshops in person. We are located in Los Angeles, so, you know, within reason. Oh, hi, Kitty. But most of our stuff is online. Some of it is synchronous, meaning happening together. We're all on like a Zoom call or something. And some of it's asynchronous, like you can do it anytime you want, do it when you're free, do it when you're inspired. So there's a pretty good variety, but again, we're located in Los Angeles. So if you're near us geographically, we can provide in-person workshops, and we will be headed. Aren't we headed somewhere?
We're headed to Chicago. Yeah, we're going to be working with a company, a group in Chicago. So yeah, so we are largely virtual. But if you are interested in an in-person situation, we can absolutely talk about it. So yeah, we're working with the Metamorphosis group and the Trifecta Dance Collective out in Chicago. But yeah, let us know. Send us an email. So what's great, I think, about what DanceEnd is doing is that we have done the research on, at this point, 9 different, 9 different topics that are mental health challenges for dancers. So we offer the opportunity for dance groups, dance companies, dance schools to really look at what we have and customize our workshops for them. So if you have a dance group that's dealing with maybe competition or, perfectionism issues or, negative self-talk or competitiveness or identity issues, or, we really want to make sure that what we're offering will help the group of dancers that we're working with. So I say all that to say, if you're interested, you're absolutely welcome to reach out and we can figure it out.
Excellent.
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much to both of you for taking the time to be on our podcast today. We really enjoyed speaking with you and hearing more about DanceEnd and what you both are up to. If you want to check them out, please do by visiting them on social media, on Instagram, Twitter, all of those wonderful things, and come see their website. They've got a lot of great things to offer, and we hope everyone goes and checks them out. So yeah, so thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was wonderful to chat.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for tuning into Abundance. We appreciate your support. We hope to have PK'd your interest. Feel free to contact us at abundancepodcast5678@gmail.com and give us feedback on what you'd like to hear. That is abundance without parentheses. Go dance yourself silly. Bye for now.
A special thank you to Richard DiFiore for our lovely podcast tune and Matt Mellish for our cover art.